Hello kids, welcome to the Story with a Lesson. Today I'm going to tell you a story about the Mittler Rebbe. It's not really a story, it's a little bit like history, something that happened in the olden days, and we can learn a great lesson. Unfortunately, when Chassidus first came out, there were a lot of people who either maybe they were jealous or they thought that maybe Chassidus was a bad thing because they didn't know about it, or for whatever reason, they called themselves Misnagdim, and they often, unfortunately, were very violent against Chassidim, and they thought they were doing the right things, and they could maybe beat them up and steal their property, a lot of terrible things. Anyway, so when the Mittler Rebbe became Rebbe, the Mittler Rebbe made a rule amongst all the Chassidim, and the rule was that the Chassidim shouldn't daven in the Misnagdish shuls, in the shuls. So if you were in a city and the only shul was a Misnagdish shul and they were full of, unfortunately, hate, then don't even walk into the shul. If you need to hear Kaddish or Baruch Hu, you can stand on the outside and listen. And I think the lesson from this is very important. As it says in Hayom Yom, a person should never ever argue, even when you're right. You know, when my Zayda, my grandfather, got married, he made a deal with his wife. And the deal was that whoever thinks they're right in an argument, they will be the first one to apologize. As you know, we had two Beis HaMikdashes. The first Beis HaMikdash lasted for 410 years, and then Hashem said there were too many sins, and He destroyed the Beis HaMikdash. And you probably know it was only 70 years later that the Jews returned to Eretz Yisrael and they built the Beis HaMikdash. The second Beis HaMikdash, unfortunately, is still destroyed. And our Chachamim say, well, the first Beis HaMikdash, we knew what the sins were. So when we fixed it, we did Shuvah, Hashem built the second Beis HaMikdash. But the second Beis HaMikdash, we don't know what the sins are that caused the destruction. So that's why it wasn't recreated. So the question is, but we do know, because the first Beis HaMikdash, they went against the three most important sins that a person should even give their life not to do, which is Gilui Arayos, adultery, Shfichas Dam, and murder, and Avodah Zarah, idolatry. The second Beis HaMikdash says they did Torah, they had mitzvahs, they even gave tzedakah, but they had sinas chinam. They hated each other. So how can you say that we don't know the sin? We know the sin, that they hated each other. The answer is that when a person hates someone else, they never think, I am wrong for hating. They always think, you are wrong, that's why I'm hating you. But the truth is, as we see from the story of the Mittler Rebbe, if somebody's arguing with you, then they have a problem. You have to walk away. You don't have to be right. It's better to not argue and let someone think that you're wrong than to have to prove that you're right and, God forbid, chas v'shalom, hate. And I'll conclude with what the Baal Shem Tov says. He says that every mitzvah in the Torah, like eat kosher, has another mitzvah which is don't eat treif. The mitzvah, the most important mitzvah, as you know, is love your friend as much as you love yourself. And just like you wouldn't criticize, you wouldn't hate yourself, you shouldn't hate anyone else. So the Loisa said, the opposite of loving your friend is chas v'shalom, hating your friend. And there's a mitzvah in the Torah that says, Loisisa, I forget exactly how it goes, but don't hold on to any hatred in your heart. If somebody makes you upset, it's your job to forgive the person. And if you can't forgive them, you can say, why did you make me upset? But you should never, ever, ever be angry. I love you. Keep up doing the mitzvahs, because as we say, a kid with one extra mitzvah has the real power to bring Mashiach.